The massive mothership of the Krelnax Collective hung silently above Earth's atmosphere, its obsidian black hull absorbing and reflecting the pale blue light of the planet below. Admiral Vorlex, a seasoned commander with decades of interstellar conquest, studied the holographic displays with a mix of calculated precision and growing unease. "Preliminary scans complete," reported Lieutenant Zara, her translucent exoskeleton shifting with nervous energy. "Target locations identified. Research facilities in multiple global zones show high concentrations of technological potential." Vorlex's multiple eyes, arranged in a complex hexagonal pattern, narrowed. The Krelnax had conquered 17 star systems, each conquest more efficient than the last. Humans were supposed to be primitive, fractured, and easily subdued. Intelligence reports suggested a species barely capable of interplanetary communication, let alone serious resistance. "Initiate primary strike protocol," Vorlex commanded, his voice a low, resonant vibration that passed through the ship's communication membranes. "Neutralize research centers. Minimal collateral damage. We want their technological infrastructure intact." Aboard the International Quantum Research Station orbiting Earth, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez was reviewing quantum entanglement data when the first wave of attacks began. Proximity alarms blared, red emergency lights casting a crimson glow across the pristine laboratory. "Incoming," shouted Dr. Elena Kovacs, her fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces. "Multiple kinetic energy signatures targeting global research facilities." Marcus didn't panic. Years of working in high-stress environments had trained him to remain calm. "Initiate protocol firewall," he commanded, activating a series of defensive subroutines they had developed in secret. What the Krelnax didn't know was that Earth's scientific community had been preparing for potential extraterrestrial threats for decades. What appeared to be simple research stations were actually complex, multi-layered defensive networks disguised as scientific installations. As the first kinetic strikes approached, quantum shield generators activated. Instead of destroying the facilities, the incoming projectiles were quantum-shifted, their energy dispersed across multiple dimensional planes. Where the Krelnax expected destruction, they encountered something entirely unexpected: resistance. On the ground, at a facility in the Brazilian Amazon, Dr. Joaquin Reyes watched as advanced defensive systems came online. Camouflaged anti-spacecraft turrets emerged from seemingly ordinary research buildings, their targeting systems locked onto the incoming alien projectiles. "They think we're unprepared," Joaquin muttered to his colleague, Dr. Amara Okoro. "They have no idea." The first wave of attacks revealed a critical miscalculation by the Krelnax. Each research facility was not just a scientific outpost but a potential fortress. Quantum shields, advanced energy dissipation technologies, and intricate defensive networks transformed what should have been vulnerable targets into impenetrable strongholds. Aboard the mothership, Lieutenant Zara's data streams turned chaotic. "Admiral, we're experiencing unprecedented resistance. Projected damage rates are negative. Our strikes are being neutralized before impact." Vorlex's exoskeleton rippled with a mixture of confusion and growing alarm. This was not in any invasion scenario they had ever encountered. Humans were supposed to be predictable, their technology primitive and easily overwhelmed. "Recalibrate targeting systems," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know how they're defending these installations." But even as he spoke, something else was happening. The quantum shields were doing more than just defending. They were learning, adapting, collecting data about the Krelnax attack vectors with each attempted strike. In the quantum research facility, Marcus and Elena watched in real time as their defensive systems not only protected the installation but began to map the alien technology's weaknesses. "They're using a predictive quantum algorithm," Elena explained, her eyes wide with scientific excitement. "Each attack is teaching our systems more about their technological approach." What the Krelnax had intended as a swift, decisive first strike was transforming into something entirely different. Their invasion was no longer a simple conquest but had become a complex, dynamic interaction with a species far more sophisticated than their initial intelligence suggested. Vorlex realized, with a growing sense of dread, that this would not be a simple invasion. Humans were not just resisting, they were responding in a way that defied all known invasion protocols. The first contact was not going as planned. And humanity was just getting started. The United Nations Emergency Command Center in Geneva transformed from a diplomatic hub to a war room within hours of the initial alien attacks. Representatives from every continent crowded around holographic displays, their faces a mix of determination and barely contained anxiety. General Wei Zhang of the Chinese Strategic Defense Command stood at the center of the room, his weathered face illuminated by multiple data streams. "Our initial analysis confirms what Dr. Rodriguez and his team discovered," he announced, his voice cutting through the background murmur. "The Krelnax invasion is not just a military threat, it's a test of our collective human potential." Dr. Kimberly Nkosi, head of the African Technological Consortium, stepped forward. Her holographic presentation revealed a complex network of global research facilities, each marked with intricate defensive systems. "We've been preparing for this moment longer than most realized," she explained. "Our quantum research, distributed across multiple continents, wasn't just scientific exploration. It was a global defense strategy." The room fell silent as she revealed the true extent of human preparation. What appeared to be isolated research stations were actually interconnected nodes of a planet-wide defensive network. Quantum computing centers in Brazil, electromagnetic research facilities in Russia, advanced materials labs in Japan, all were now part of a unified response system. "They attacked our research facilities," Dr. Nkosi continued, "believing them to be vulnerable. Instead, they've activated our most sophisticated defensive mechanism." In orbit, the International Space Station had transformed into a command and communication hub. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez worked alongside a diverse team of scientists and military strategists, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living information. "Quantum Entanglement Communication Network is stable," reported Dr. Elena Kovacs. "We're tracking the Krelnax fleet's movements with unprecedented precision." What made their approach unique was the complete integration of scientific and military resources. Gone were the traditional boundaries between research and defense. Every scientist was now a potential strategist, every military officer a technological innovator. Aboard the Krelnax mothership, Admiral Vorlex watched in growing frustration as his invasion plans continued to unravel. Lieutenant Zara's reports became increasingly problematic. "Their defensive systems are not just blocking our attacks," Zara reported, her translucent exoskeleton quivering with a mix of fear and professional concern. "They're learning. Adapting. Each of our strike attempts is being analyzed, catalogued, and neutralized more efficiently than the last." Vorlex understood the implications. This was not just technological resistance. This was a species-wide, coordinated response that defied all known invasion protocols. On Earth, the response continued to take shape. The Global Rapid Response Force, a unit that had existed only in theoretical planning documents, was now a reality. Comprised of the most elite military and scientific personnel from around the world, they represented a new kind of human defense. In a secure facility beneath the Andes Mountains, Dr. Joaquin Reyes worked with a team developing what they called adaptive response technologies. Their goal was simple yet revolutionary: create defensive systems that could not just react to alien technology, but anticipate and counter it. "We're no longer just defending," Joaquin explained to his team. "We're learning to speak the language of technological conflict." The first counterattack would not be a simple military strike. It would be a comprehensive, multi-layered response that combined scientific insight, technological innovation, and a level of global cooperation never before seen in human history. As night fell across different parts of the world, billions of humans remained unaware of how close they had come to destruction. They didn't know about the quantum shields, the adaptive defense networks, or the global team working tirelessly to protect them. But the Krelnax were about to learn something fundamental about humanity. When faced with an existential threat, humans did not just resist. They transformed. And this transformation was only beginning. The underground research facility beneath the Nevada desert hummed with an energy that was part scientific excitement, part desperate innovation. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers tracing complex quantum algorithms that danced like living networks. "We're not just developing a weapon," she explained to the assembled team of international scientists and military strategists. "We're creating a communication bridge that can decode and manipulate alien technological signatures." What had begun as a theoretical project now represented humanity's most promising defense against the Krelnax invasion. The Quantum Resonance Adaptation Project, or QRAP, was the culmination of decades of secret research, brought together by the imminent alien threat. Dr. Victor Rodriguez, Yuki's colleague and lead quantum physicist, adjusted a series of intricate neural interfaces. "Their technology relies on predictive algorithms," he explained. "They assume linear progression. We're going to give them something entirely unexpected." The team had discovered a critical weakness in the Krelnax technological framework. Their advanced systems operated on a principle of technological determinism, a belief that technological development followed a predictable path. Humans were about to prove them catastrophically wrong. Aboard the Krelnax mothership, Admiral Vorlex received increasingly troubling reports. Lieutenant Zara's latest communication revealed something unprecedented. "Our communication networks are being compromised," she reported, her usually calm voice tinged with a rare hint of panic. "The humans are not just blocking our signals, they're learning to mimic and manipulate them." What the Krelnax didn't understand was the fundamental difference between their technological approach and humanity's. Where the alien civilization saw technology as a linear progression, humans viewed it as a creative, adaptive ecosystem. In the Nevada facility, Dr. Tanaka activated the first full-scale test of their most audacious project. The resonance disruptor was more than a weapon, it was a technological ecosystem designed to learn, adapt, and counter alien technology in real time. Initiating quantum harmonic cascade, Yuki announced. The room filled with a low, almost musical hum that seemed to vibrate at the edge of perception. Thousands of miles away, in orbital monitoring stations, scientists watched in real time as the disruptor began its work. It wasn't attacking the Krelnax technology directly. Instead, it was something far more sophisticated, it was learning the language of their technological communication. Vorlex received the first warning from his technical team. "Admiral, our secondary communication networks are experiencing quantum destabilization. Something is translating our technological language." The implications were terrifying. The humans weren't just defending, they were beginning to understand and manipulate alien technology at a fundamental level. Dr. Victor Rodriguez grinned as initial test results came in. "We're not just blocking their technology," he told Yuki. "We're teaching our systems to speak their technological language." Psychological warfare entered a new dimension. The Krelnax had expected a straightforward invasion, technological superiority overwhelming a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves engaged in a complex, multi-layered conflict where the very rules of technological engagement were being rewritten. Back in the Nevada facility, Dr. Tanaka understood the true nature of their breakthrough. This wasn't just about defense. It was about demonstrating the core of human potential, creativity, adaptability, and an almost infinite capacity for innovation. "We're not just fighting," she said quietly to her team. "We're redefining the very concept of technological conflict." As night fell across the Nevada desert, the resonance disruptor continued its work, a silent, sophisticated weapon that represented humanity's most profound response to the alien invasion. The Krelnax were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not in its military might, but in its ability to imagine, create, and transform in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. And this was just the beginning. The first full-scale human counteroffensive began not with a traditional military strike, but with a technological symphony of unprecedented complexity. From orbital platforms to ground-based quantum nodes, humanity launched a coordinated response that would redefine the very concept of planetary defense. General Isabella Ortiz stood in the Global Command Center, her eyes tracking the intricate holographic displays that mapped the ongoing conflict. The room buzzed with an energy that was part scientific precision, part unbridled human determination. "Activate Project Firewall," she commanded, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the command center. Across the planet, a network of quantum adaptive defense systems came to life. What the Krelnax had considered isolated research facilities revealed themselves as interconnected weapon systems. Orbital platforms that appeared to be simple communication satellites transformed, their surfaces shimmering with adaptive quantum shields. Aboard the Krelnax mothership, Admiral Vorlex watched in growing horror as their invasion strategy unraveled. Lieutenant Zara's reports became increasingly frantic. "Our landing zones are being neutralized before ground forces can establish a foothold," she reported. "The humans are using some form of quantum interference that's rendering our advanced weaponry ineffective." The counteroffensive was not a traditional military engagement. It was a complex dance of technological adaptation. Human scientists had spent decades studying potential extraterrestrial threats, and now that preparation was paying dividends beyond their wildest imagination. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's Quantum Resonance Adaptation Project, QRAP, took center stage. The system didn't just defend, it actively analyzed and dismantled Krelnax's technological infrastructure. Communication networks were compromised, weapon systems were turned against their creators, and invasion protocols were systematically dismantled. In the Pacific, a Krelnax destroyer attempted to establish a beachhead. Suddenly, its own weapon systems began to malfunction. Quantum entanglement disruption caused the ship's advanced targeting systems to collapse, turning its most potent weapons into nothing more than expensive scrap metal. "It's like they're reading our technological mind," muttered a frustrated Krelnax tactical officer. But it was more than that. Humanity was rewriting the very language of technological conflict. The global response was unprecedented. Countries that had been historical rivals now worked in perfect synchronization. Military units from different continents coordinated with scientific teams, sharing real-time data and adaptive strategies. Dr. Victor Rodriguez monitored the planetary defense network from the Nevada facility. "We're not just defending," he explained to his team. "We're teaching our systems to predict and neutralize alien technological approaches." Vorlex realized they had gravely underestimated humanity. These were not a primitive species to be conquered. They were technological shapeshifters, capable of adapting faster than any species the Krelnax had encountered in their centuries of galactic conquest. The most devastating weapon was not a physical device, but humanity's collective intelligence. Each attack by the Krelnax was immediately analyzed, understood, and neutralized. Quantum computing centers around the world worked in perfect harmony, creating a planetary defense network that was more than the sum of its parts. In orbit, human-developed drone swarms began to systematically disable Krelnax support infrastructure. These were not simple machines, but adaptive intelligence networks that learned and evolved with each encounter. General Ortiz watched as the first major alien landing attempt was completely neutralized. No massive explosions, no traditional warfare. Instead, the alien technology simply failed. Quantum shields absorbed energy weapons. Communication networks collapsed. Invasion protocols became nothing more than useless strings of code. "We're not just fighting," she said quietly to her team. "We're demonstrating the true potential of human cooperation and innovation." As the first phase of the counteroffensive concluded, the Krelnax found themselves facing a species that defied every known rule of technological engagement. Humanity had transformed from a potential conquest to an existential challenge that threatened the very foundation of the alien civilization's understanding of technological warfare. And this was only the beginning of their response. The command deck of the Krelnax mothership had become a place of rising tension and growing uncertainty. Admiral Vorlex paced the bioorganic corridor, his multiple limbs moving with an uncharacteristic agitation that alarmed his senior officers. "This is impossible," he muttered, reviewing the constantly shifting tactical displays. What had begun as a routine invasion had transformed into something entirely unprecedented. Lieutenant Zara stood nearby, her usually stoic demeanor replaced by a mix of professional concern and something closer to scientific fascination. "The humans are not just resisting," Zara reported, her neural interface displaying complex data streams. "They're fundamentally rewriting the rules of technological engagement." Deep within the ship's neural core, the collective consciousness of the Krelnax began to fracture. Their civilization had conquered 17 different star systems, each conquest following a precise, mathematically predictable pattern. Humanity was a complete anomaly. Commander Krelax, the ship's senior strategic analyst, brought forward a comprehensive report. "Their technological adaptation rate is beyond any known species in our records," he explained. "They're not just defending. They're learning and evolving faster than our most advanced predictive algorithms can comprehend." The invasion had revealed a critical flaw in the Krelnax understanding of technological development. They viewed technology as a linear progression, a series of incremental improvements that could be mapped and predicted. Humans demonstrated something entirely different: technology as a creative, adaptive ecosystem. Their research facilities, Vorlex said, studying the holographic displays, were not just defensive installations. They were living, breathing networks of innovation. Internal debates erupted across the mothership's command structure. Some argued for continued invasion, believing that their technological superiority would eventually prevail. Others, like Lieutenant Zara, began to see humanity as something far more complex. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Zara argued during a heated strategy session. "These humans don't follow any of our established invasion protocols. They're not a single, hierarchical species. They're a collaborative, adaptive network." The humans had done something truly remarkable. They had turned the entire concept of technological warfare on its head. Each Krelnax attack was immediately analyzed, understood, and neutralized. Quantum computing centers around the world worked in perfect harmony, creating a planetary defense network that was more than the sum of its parts. Vorlex accessed the most classified intelligence reports. Humanity's response went beyond mere technological defense. They were actively learning the language of the Krelnax technological communication, turning the invaders' own systems against them. "We assumed they were primitive," Commander Krelax said quietly. "We were wrong." The cracks in the Krelnax invasion strategy began to widen. Their communication networks were being compromised, their advanced weapon systems rendered ineffective. What they had expected to be a simple resource harvesting mission had become an existential challenge to their entire understanding of technological conquest. Lieutenant Zara's research team began documenting what they were witnessing. This was more than a military engagement. It was a fundamental clash of technological philosophies. The Krelnax believed in technological determinism, the idea that technological development followed a predictable path. Humans demonstrated something far more dynamic: technology as a creative, adaptive process. "We're not dealing with a species," Zara reported to Vorlex. "We're dealing with a global, collaborative intelligence network." The most terrifying realization was yet to come. Humanity was not just defending. They were learning, adapting, and potentially preparing to take the offensive. Each moment of the conflict provided them with new insights into Krelnax technology. As internal debates raged and strategic models collapsed, one thing became clear: the invasion of Earth was no longer a simple conquest. It had become a complex, multi-layered conflict that challenged everything the Krelnax thought they knew about technological warfare. The humans were not just survivors. They were transformers. And the Krelnax were about to learn the true meaning of human potential. The final confrontation was unlike any battle in galactic history. It wasn't a clash of weapons, but a war of intelligence, adaptation, and collective human potential. Admiral Vorlex watched in stunned silence as the Krelnax invasion strategy completely unraveled. What had begun as a confident expedition to harvest Earth's resources had transformed into a fight for the survival of their entire civilization's technological paradigm. "Initiate full retreat protocol," Vorlex commanded, his voice a mixture of professional detachment and something closer to respect. Lieutenant Zara's final report was a testament to humanity's unprecedented capabilities. The humans had not just defended themselves, they had systematically dismantled the Krelnax invasion infrastructure, turning the invaders' most advanced technologies against them. Global Command Center was a symphony of coordinated effort. General Isabella Ortiz stood at the center, watching as the final stages of the planetary defense unfolded. Dr. Yuki Tanaka and Dr. Victor Rodriguez worked side by side, their quantum resonance adaptation project having transformed from a theoretical concept to humanity's most powerful defensive weapon. "They're breaking," Victor said quietly, studying the holographic displays that tracked the Krelnax technological collapse. "Our adaptive networks have completely compromised their invasion infrastructure." The true victory was not in destruction, but in understanding. Humanity had demonstrated a fundamental truth about technological evolution that the Krelnax had never comprehended. Technology was not a linear progression, but a living, breathing ecosystem of innovation and creativity. Aboard the mothership, the collective consciousness of the Krelnax underwent a profound transformation. They had encountered species before, conquered civilizations across multiple star systems. But never had they faced a species that could adapt so quickly, think so collectively, and innovate with such breathtaking speed. "We miscalculated," Vorlex acknowledged to his senior officers. "Humanity is not a species to be conquered. They are a global, adaptive intelligence network." The final moments of the invasion were not marked by massive explosions or dramatic space battles. Instead, the Krelnax technological infrastructure simply collapsed. Quantum interference disrupted their communication networks. Adaptive algorithms turned their most advanced weapon systems into useless code. Dr. Tanaka understood the deeper significance. "We didn't just defend," she explained to her team. "We demonstrated an entirely new approach to technological engagement." As the last Krelnax ships retreated, humanity's response was equally unprecedented. There were no celebrations of military victory, no declarations of triumph. Instead, the global scientific community began the most important work, understanding the technological breakthrough they had just achieved. The International Scientific Consortium quickly convened. Representatives from every continent gathered to document and analyze the conflict. What had appeared to be isolated research facilities revealed themselves as a global, interconnected defense network that redefined the very concept of planetary protection. "This is more than a victory," General Ortiz told the assembled scientists and military leaders. "This is a demonstration of human potential." Vorlex transmitted a final message before retreating, a communication that would be studied by the Krelnax civilization for generations. It was not a message of defeat, but of profound respect. "Humanity is not a conquest," the message read. "Humanity is a force of nature." In the years that followed, the conflict would be remembered not as an invasion, but as the moment humanity revealed its true potential. A global, adaptive intelligence that could transform challenges into opportunities, that could unite across boundaries, and that could reimagine the very concept of technological engagement. The Krelnax had come to harvest resources. They left with a new understanding of what it means to be truly intelligent.